Hello, and welcome once again to the Dental Marketing Mastery Series. This podcast is brought to you by dentalwebcontent.com and New Patients Incorporated. I'm Howie Horrocks, the founder of New Patients Incorporated. Along with me once again is my friend and partner and the president of New Patients Incorporated, Mark Dilatush.
Hey everybody, this is Mark Dilatush with New Patients Incorporated, and we have another podcast, probably somewhere between 80 and 90 of these podcasts our audience have endured over the years, so thank you for listening. Today, we have a very special guest, a gentleman named Jason Siruchek, and Jason and I go back. Jason... 20, I don't even want to say 20, let's just say 25 years.
Certainly the early 90s. Yeah.
Certainly the early 90s. Okay.
Yes.
So Jason, we connected on the telephone. Hey, how you doing? What's going on in your life? How's business? That kind of thing. And Jason shared with me what he's doing. And I'm really impressed. I do believe that this is going to be a new way for dental offices, dentists, and staff to get the information they need in an efficient manner. It was very interesting to me because I've been a management consultant myself, and there are inherent challenges to that. And it seems that Jason and his team have solved many of those challenges. So now so everybody listening, this is Jason Siruchek. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Mark. How are you? It's good to hear your voice, buddy.
Same here. So you have a company called Dental Elevated.
That's correct.
What is Dental Elevated, and help the audience understand, like, what was the genesis? Where did this come from, this idea to build Dental Elevated?
You know, it comes from many years of working with practices and helping practices, and frankly, having my heartstrings tugged too many times by folks that really were reaching out for help, and frankly, either couldn't afford the traditional consulting help that I had offered for many, many years, and the industry has offered for many years. And I know, Mark, you probably had those conversations as well, you know, with the practice management background.
Sure.
Talk to someone and they're saying, gosh, Mark, my practice is not where I'd like it to be. And we all know it goes back to systems and training and implementation of those systems and so forth. And really, it's been only one way for the most part that could be successfully accomplished in a practice, which is, you know, to hire a coach and have that coach to varying levels of engagement in terms of coming on site in the practice and so forth. But you know, you and I know it's, you know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month, you know, whatever it would cost to deliver that information. And so for many years, you know, I mean, you and I have gone back, as I said, back to the early 90s. And then in 2000, I moved into the pure consulting space and have been working hands-on with practices. And my partner, by the way, which I should mention, Tatiana, who's an absolute rock star, and she happens to be kind of the face of the things that we're rolling out here. You know, you veered after a practice management stint and are still involved in it on a very heavy marketing track, and I've really remained on this one-on-one traditional consulting track. And again, those conversations, right? Gosh, I need help, and gee, I can't afford it. So actually, interestingly, 3 or 4 years ago, we said, God, there's got to be something that we can do if for someone who either can't afford to or is unwilling to engage in traditional consulting. We said there's got to be something, and so we with some hesitancy, because we know, and you know, that the challenge with practices isn't that they're lacking information, but they lack application, right, of that information. of it.
Right.
But with some hesitancy, we said, why don't we at least give people our information? Let's sell that as a product. And we were selling essentially a binder, Mark, of all of our systems and procedures and policies. And it was written in a way that they could actually kind of say, okay, here's the beginning, and let's sit down as a team and let's go through this together. And my concern was that people would buy it and we're spending a few $1,000s for this binder, and it would sit on the shelf. And
Right.
what ended up happening most of the time, 90% of the time, that's exactly what happened. And frankly, towards the kind of the end of that, I'd almost make people beg me and promise me that they would implement it, because we didn't want to take anyone's money unless we knew that they were going to get some value out of it. And while wasn't our responsibility, obviously, we still wanted to make sure that people were spending their money wisely and we're going to actually get something out of it. So fast forward to where we are now. And for the last year or so, I've been sitting on this concept. And the concern, frankly, was that if we could deliver the same information that we're delivering in our traditional consulting model, if we could deliver that same information in an entirely new way, in a way that technology allows, because obviously technology is just, it's unbelievable what we're able to do now. If we could do that, we should, because we would have a much greater impact and we could help a lot more people. But the concern, to be just totally candid, was saying, well, gosh, we run the risk of really kind of cannibalizing our own company.
No, absolutely.
People say, well, what the heck am I going to pay you, thousands of dollars if I can get it for a fraction of that, right, Mark?
Yeah, well, and then, even if you told somebody about this, they would say, well, I'll just wait.
Right.
Yeah, I'll wait till it goes down.
Right.
So.
And in fact, I think there's another company by the name of New Patients Incorporated who kind of went down a similar path with some of their information.
Sure.
In creating an online portal, I guess, if you will, right? If that's enough word for it, where they all of the amazing things that you guys have created, all this tested material over the years, that people are able to now access easily,
for almost nothing.
For almost nothing,
right? Right.
But it's something that, again, technology has evolved to a point where that's possible. So we decided that we were just going to kind of go all in on this, and just kind of put what we were doing in terms of traditional consulting in the past, launch an entirely new company called Dental Elevated, for the purpose of helping thousands of practices all around the country for a fraction of what they would typically charge for, or what they would typically pay for traditional consulting.
Right. Okay. So when you say technology, like what aspects of technology are you exploiting? Because basically what this comes down to is if you're delivering the same information, the technology is what's creating the economy.
Correct.
And the economy is being passed through back to the customer, back to the client.
Right.
So what part of technology is allowing you to do this where you may have been on site previously?
The technology really comes down to the platforms that are available, and the platforms that we've spent lots and lots of time and money developing and fleshing out for the purposes of this. It allows us to create not only a fully online experience where, again, unlike, say, a book that was published that is outdated, can be outdated immediately once it's out there. This technology allows us to deliver information in a way that is implementable and well, I'll put it this way. There's a lot of information out there, Mark, right? You can go on YouTube, and of course you can go to a seminar. You could go read articles.
I could go to Facebook and get 93 different opinions right now from that.
Right, exactly. In fact, there's some companies, there are some websites, kind of subscription-based websites that you can pay on a monthly basis and kind of have access to a whole bunch of videos.
Right.
The challenge with that is it's kind of a hodgepodge of stuff.
Right.
And this information has been out, I mean, not this exact information, but this situation where there's a lot of information out there has been out there for many years. The challenge from a learning perspective and therefore an implementation perspective is, where do we start? Where do we go next? And is it something like, oh, hey, front desk person, go and watch that video? And we're not really all getting on the same page, all moving in the same direction. And that's, as a coaching company, that's really the magic in what we've always done. Okay, as a team, let's get together and let's all get on the same page, all moving in the same direction, all towards a common goal. And so as opposed to the differing opinions, as you said, which can also obviously get very, very confusing, this allows for a very methodical, same thing that we would do in person when we were working with a practice. It allows us to go through this very kind of methodical rollout of the information so that the information itself can be implemented, which is, again, always the challenge, right? It's not that it's a lack of information, it's a lack of implementation. And so in addition to the actual platform itself, whereby someone's able to log on and they have their lesson for that, either for that week or for a 2-week period, and then they implement that and they go on to the next lesson, and each lesson just builds on the other. In addition to that, there is a community, which is very helpful. And you're a part of different communities, Mark. I'm a part of different communities.
Right.
And that's another thing that obviously wasn't available many years ago, to be able to be a part of a private Facebook group where people are able to exchange ideas and ask each other for help and to get information, and a forum in which we're able to obviously hop on and answer questions and contribute as well. So that's the beauty of what we have available to us nowadays, is that the technology it creates this kind of experience that was never available before.
Right. Well, I know there's there's power in peer groups among the dental culture. I know there's power in dentist-only peer groups. I know there's power in staff-only peer groups. If there weren't those many organizations wouldn't exist and wouldn't flourish. I also know there's power in having them all combined into a peer group of clients who may be in the same month, year, whatever. So
right. All in the same journey.
All in the same journey, right? So that'll that'll bring it all together. And I'm not going to say make people more accountable, but let's face it, if you're in a peer group and you're not accountable, then you're the quiet one in the corner.
Right.
Right?
That's true.
Or you're fired. Either one.
Right.
So, no, that's I wanted you to explain that to our audience, because I've seen pieces, I actually been part of pieces of all of that, but little pieces. Right? It sounds like what Dental Elevated's doing is trying to, or is using technology to bring all those pieces together and then passing the economy off to the client, which makes sense because, yeah, I mean, we have the same conversations with our clients, and I would say, oh, hell, I'd say half the people who call into NPI for marketing really aren't aware of, what they should be spending on marketing. So, any dollar amount above what their own expectation was is, is perceived to be too much, right? So, I mean, consultants go through the same thing. I went through the same thing when I was doing consulting. So this is now, I have a follow-up question, which is, okay, so you have these methodical step-by-step, the whole team moving, let's say, rowing the whole boat in the same direction, which is really what every dentist wants. Okay. Right. When it all comes down to it. Okay. All right. So now, are all the clients like in the same track? Do the tracks change by clients? Or, I mean, is it customized? Like, how is that?
So the curriculum itself, or the course, we'll call it, is delivered in the same way, same steps. Now, what an individual practice does, because every practice is unique, perhaps not as unique as everyone thinks they are, because human beings are human beings, but certainly every practice is unique. And even when we did our traditional consulting work, we weren't dogmatic in that everyone had to do it in the exact same way. It was, you need to work on your financial policy. Let's use that as an example. We're going to certainly recommend a proven financial policy and a way to have that conversation with practices. But it's also designed in a way where we're presenting different options. The key, Mark, is that the practice is actually working on itself.
Right.
So this is this provides the vehicle through which the practice is actually, and this is, this, I mean, they don't normally work on themselves.
No.
They
don't.
show up, they go through their daily routine, and they punch out and refresh the next day and start over. And they very rarely, for the most part, again, some practices are more advanced than others and really work on themselves. But generally speaking, my experience and your experience is that most of the time they're too busy working in the practice that they don't ever really get a chance to work on the practice.
Right.
So the course itself is going to take them through every system in the practice, from the initial phone call through to the patient arriving. What does that look like? Through to the patient comes into hygiene, and what is the conversation that hygiene would be having with regard to periodontal disease and treatment, and setting the stage for restorative treatment, for when the doc comes in to do his or her exam and goes through the treatment plan. And the patient invariably at that point always asks the same question, which is, okay, well, how much is this?
Right.
And then have that conversation. Who has that conversation? Where does that conversation take place? I will tell you that as in our most recent work, and the things that we've been teaching recently are different, certainly, than what we taught 10 years ago, because the world has changed.
Sure.
The insurance landscape has changed with people taking over.
We've changed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Consumers have changed.
Right.
So the world, so we're certainly, and listen, I'm not to dig at some of the other companies that are out there, but my experience is that most of the companies that have been in this industry doing traditional consulting have been teaching the same thing for 20 or 30 years, and they really haven't shifted very much in their message. We definitely have, over time, and one of the I'll call it radical. It's not really radical in a good way, perhaps. One of the radical things that we have been teaching, and it's not required, and some practices absolutely love it and do it, and some don't, is we teach a model in which really the entire practice is fully cross-trained. And a lot of docs will say, oh, we're cross-trained, our team will say that, but they're not. They may be cross-trained, but they've not actually cross-done, right?
Right.
So yeah, I learned how to say, well, when's the last time? Well, I've never actually done it. Say, well, okay, well, you're probably not that proficient at it then.
Right.
And so as a business owner, someone who has a company of 4 or 5 or 6 employees or 7 employees, certainly one of the riskiest situations is that you have only one person that can do a particular thing that's really, really critical to the success of the practice, such as financial arrangements.
Right.
Treatment planning, right? So I've had this conversation lots of times. Say, so who does your treatment planning or your financial arrangement, your case closing? Who handles your money with patients and talks about care credit or whatever the case may be? And usually there's a quote-unquote treatment plan coordinator or front desk person, but there's someone on the administrative side of the practice that has that conversation. And, so my follow-up question will be, well, what happens when she's not there? She's on vacation, she's out sick, she's not available at that particular point in time. And the answer is usually kind of
Right. It's a difference between cross-training and cross-experienced. Basically.
Yes. So one of the things that we have taught our clients for a long time, again, not required, and even through the course it's not required, although it will be presented as an option, is that it's not a really hard thing to do, right, Mark? Nothing is hard.
No.
In a dental practice, but you have to learn it.
Right.
So for a patient, to say, well, how much is it? And for the doctor to be able to say, okay, if you have no more questions about teeth, Mary here, famous Mary or Sally, who's the hygienist or the assistant, can easily have that conversation with you. And perhaps we can now move into some same-day dentistry, or at least, get this wrapped up so that we can get them scheduled to come back as quickly as possible for that work. It's in order for that to happen, again, the entire team has to be trained and all go. And so that's the advantage of, instead of saying, okay, well, I'm just going to train these people to do this and these people to do this. Even if a practice doesn't do that, Mark, even if a practice doesn't want, like what we've been teaching, kind of an Apple Store approach where find someone in blue and a blue shirt at the Apple Store. I know, Mark, and I know.
Yeah.
No Apple, I know. But for me, I find someone in a blue shirt and, they take care of you. Cash registers, there's nothing. So we've been kind of teaching that approach, and it's extraordinarily efficient and effective. But even if a practice doesn't want to do that, it's certainly helpful.
Oh, yeah. No, it's certainly helpful for everybody to know what everybody else is doing.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So that we understand, because there's that back and front thing.
Sure.
Right? It's like, she just put an emergency in the schedule, and doesn't she understand what's going on back here? And the front desk,
my tuna fish sandwich is going to go bad.
Right, and they're and she's sitting back there, and reading People magazine. She's not doing. There's no real understanding, and therefore no empathy around what everyone's doing in the practice and what their responsibilities. So we want an entire team all on the same page, all moving in the same direction. To what extent they're cross-doing, that's up to the individual practice, but that's the purpose of this. So instead of saying, hey, front desk person, go and watch a video on X. Now, let me also say that when a practice goes through this experience together and they're on this journey together, obviously, nothing is permanent in a practice, and new team members will be coming on as either as a replacement or an additional team member. So for that new team member to be able to get up and running, how cool, Mark, right? For them to kind of immerse themselves in how this practice operates.
Yeah.
And so there may be, certainly in those cases, it might be appropriate for you to say, okay, here are these videos. This is what we need you to focus on for right now in your particular position in the practice. So that, yes, absolutely. And that's something that's super cool that they'll have access to, as long as they're members. And that's very, very helpful, to be able to bring new team members on and get them trained, because as you and I both know, generally what happens is people are trained and then they're just kind of thrown in and good luck, because there are no systems or procedures or policies or manuals or anything. People are just kind of doing the best they can with what they've kind of figured out. And generally that is nowhere near as effective or as efficient as they could be if they actually had real training, which is what we're providing now in a much different way.
Right. Wow. That's a lot you guys put together. I'm glad that people are going to be able now. If they're a member of the site, then basically anybody that's existing on their team is what do you have, like a subscription by location, like by office?
Yeah, it's for the office. Exactly.
Oh, okay. So it's by dental office, not I have 3 members, I have my team, I have 6, I have 12, whatever. Okay, so it's per office.
Yeah, and again, our goal is we just want to help as many people as possible. So we don't want to put up roadblocks where, gee, if you're a larger office, it costs more. On a side note, I mean, if there's anyone that listening that is at, say, the mid-market level, perhaps multiple locations and so forth, for us to be able to work and create something perhaps custom for them,
right?
So that with a very large organization that definitely has more moving parts in terms of people in and out and so forth.
Yeah.
That is just on a side note, something that this technology certainly would allow us to do as well.
Okay. All right. Well, Jason, don't wait so long before you call me and tell me what's going on in your life. That's the first thing that I'll say.
I promise, Mark. I know we're both get pretty busy.
I know.
But our paths never are far away from each other.
No, I know. It's
we're huge fans of NPI, and you guys have always done amazing things for our clients over the years, and appreciate all the work and the innovation that you and Howie have put into your company.
Well, I'm hoping someday maybe we can bring these two things together, not as owners, but as offerings, right, to clients. So we got to wrap this up. I could sit here and talk to you for the next hour, but it's time for our listeners to get off the treadmill because they're probably sweating.
That time, that's good.
I know.
Time. Learning and sweating. That's
right. So thank you. How can folks learn more about what you're doing?
Excuse me, Chief. If you hop on dentalelevated.com, for right now, there's a landing page out there. Everything is behind the scenes, about ready to be unveiled. But if they hop on dentalelevated.com and just put in their name and email address, we'll reach out to them. We are offering a pretty significant discount that they'll learn about just for NPI listeners to the podcast. So they'll learn there'll be a coupon code which will be NPI, and that's what they'll use to get a pretty significant discount on what we're offering as an appreciation to you, Mark, and also to get this launched. The only ask that we'll have for this offer that we're making is that people engage. Not become members, but as members. That they engage. They're engaged in the Facebook community and they're providing us feedback. So unbelievable opportunity, for our first group of members. And so hop on dentalelevated.com, put in your name and email address, and we'll be shooting you over some information.
Yeah, we did the same thing with Dental Web Content when we started it. We got a group of 15 or 20 dentists that got in on the ground floor and just let us have it, told us what was good, what was bad.
Yeah.
And, and it grew from there. Well, Jason, awesome. I hope you have 20,000 clients in a month.
We appreciate it, man. I do. The goal.
I know the information's right. I know you're delivering it correctly.
Thank you.
And I know that more and more people want to learn in little bits and pieces.
Right.
Like little.
Manageable, bite size.
Right. Little chunks. Right. Yep. And at their own speed, at their own schedule, at their own, life. Life gets in the way of learning. Right. So awesome. I love you, man.
Love you too, buddy.
Appreciate I will talk to you soon, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
All right. Bye-bye.
We hope you've enjoyed our podcast today. You can find more podcasts on our YouTube channel, on Stitcher, and iTunes. Also on our websites, dentalwebcontent.com and newpatients